The forest was silent in a way that felt unnatural, as if every creature inside it was holding its breath. The tall blue trees stood still, their glowing leaves barely moving in the cool night air. The human patrol team moved slowly through the alien terrain, their boots sinking softly into the moss-covered ground. They were trained soldiers used to danger, but tonight something felt different, too quiet, too expectant. Sergeant Mason walked at the front of the group, scanning the shadows. His visor displayed the faint outlines of plants and rocks, but nothing alive. No movement, no signs of hostile creatures, not even the usual hum of night insects. It was the kind of silence that made a person's instincts whisper warnings. Then it came, a scream, sharp, high, filled with pain. It cut through the silent air like a blade. Every soldier froze. Their hands tightened around their weapons. Mason raised his hand for silence, though nobody was speaking. The scream carried again, softer this time, filled with desperation. It came from somewhere ahead, hidden behind a cluster of glowing trees. That didn't sound human, Corporal Diaz whispered. Mason nodded slightly. No, but whatever it is, it's hurt. Another soldier stepped forward. Sir, it could be a trap. Or someone who needs help, Mason replied. They moved toward the sound, cautiously, their eyes scanning every patch of darkness. Scream faded into soft crying, now weak, almost fading. Something was definitely suffering. As Mason stepped around a large tree, he saw movement on the ground. A shape curled in the moss. Light from the bioluminescent plants revealed a figure, small, fragile, trembling. An alien woman. Her skin glowed faintly pale under the forest light. Her long hair was tangled and covered in dirt. She was gripping her leg with both hands, blood seeping through her fingers. Her breathing was fast, almost panicked. When she saw the humans, she tried to push herself away, but collapsed instantly with another cry of pain. Mason lowered his weapon slowly. Easy, we're not here to hurt you. She didn't understand the words, but she understood the tone. Still, fear shone in her eyes, deep, old fear, as if she had been taught from childhood to stay away from humans. Diaz whispered from behind Mason. Sir, look at that wound. Something tore her open. Mason could see it clearly now. The wound wasn't from a normal fight. It looked like she had been attacked by something big, something with claws. Her leg was swollen, the skin darkening with infection. She won't survive long without help, Mason murmured. The alien woman tried to crawl backward again, her eyes filled with terror. She spoke in her language, the sound soft and trembling. Mason didn't understand, but he could guess what she was saying. Please don't hurt me. He slowly removed his helmet so she could see his face. Human expressions often communicated more than words. He knelt down, keeping his hands visible and open. The woman stared at him, breathing hard, unsure whether to trust or fear him. Behind them, the forest rustled, as if watching. Sir, Diaz said quietly, we really shouldn't stay in one place. Whatever hurt her might still be out here. I know, Mason replied. That's why we're taking her with us. The woman shook her head quickly, repeating a word several times. Fear covered her face again. Mason didn't know her language, but the meaning was clear. No, it's dangerous. Leave me. Mason slowly reached out, moving his hand toward her injured leg. She froze instantly, eyes widening in shock. Not fear this time, but disbelief. As if she never imagined a human would touch her gently. Her breath caught when his hand made contact with her skin. She didn't pull away. She only stared at him with a confused, fragile expression, like the world she knew had suddenly changed. Mason spoke softly. It's okay. I'm helping you. Her heart pounded so hard he could almost hear it. She whispered something under her breath, a word that sounded almost like a question. Why? The forest suddenly rustled again, louder this time, shaking the trees. The team spun around with their weapons raised. Something big was moving in the darkness. Something hunting. Something coming closer. Mason looked at the alien woman. She looked past him into the trees, terror filling her eyes again. She lifted a trembling hand and pointed into the shadows. Whatever hurt her wasn't far. And now, it had found them. The forest grew darker around the patrol team as the rustling sound faded into a heavy silence. Every soldier lifted their weapon and aimed toward the moving shadows. The glowing trees cast slow waves of light that made the shapes around them shift in strange patterns. Nothing clear. Nothing certain. Only tension crawling through the air. The alien woman lay on the moss with her wounded leg shaking. Her breath came fast and shallow. Her eyes kept jumping between the humans and the unseen danger hiding among the trees. She tried to sit up, but the pain pulled her down again. Even in her fear, she looked at Mason with a kind of fragile trust. Not full trust. Just enough to hope he would not leave her. Mason scanned the dark shapes around them. His instincts shouted warnings. Something was out there. Something big. Something hungry. He stepped in front of the alien woman and raised his rifle. The rest of the patrol formed a loose circle around her. Diaz whispered close to Mason. "Sir, we cannot stay here," Mason answered under his breath. "We move when we know what is hunting her." The alien woman shook her head and made a soft sound that almost broke into a cry. She gestured at Mason again. Her hand moved in a desperate circle and then pointed sharply behind them. The meaning was clear. Run. Do not fight it. But Mason had no idea what it was. He lowered himself next to her again. Her hands trembled. Her skin looked colder. He lifted his medical scanner and ran it over her leg. A warning flashed across his visor. The wound was not only torn open. A strange toxin was spreading through her blood. If they did not treat her soon, she would lose consciousness. She watched the device with wide eyes. She had clearly never seen human medical tech before. Mason saw a question in her expression. She feared humans, yet she wanted to understand them. She feared the forest, yet she feared her own weakness more. He spoke softly. "You need help. We have medicine. We can save your leg. Maybe even save your life." She could not understand his words, yet she understood his tone. Her eyes softened and she swallowed hard. But then she shook her head again. Fear returned stronger than before. Whatever hunted her terrified her more than the toxin, more than pain, more than the humans. The trees in front of the patrol moved again. This time the movement was slow and deliberate, not random. Not the wind. The soldiers tightened their line. Their breathing grew heavier. Mason kept one hand on the alien woman's shoulder. He felt her muscles tense under his touch. She whispered a single word in her language. It sounded like a warning. It sounded like she was pleading for them to escape. A deep growl drifted through the forest, low, heavy, full of threat. Every soldier felt it inside their chest. A creature that growls like that is not small, not weak, not afraid. Diaz stepped closer to Mason. "Sir, we need to fall back." "Now," Mason nodded. "We move as a unit." "On my call, but she comes with us." He looked at the alien woman. Her fear grew when she understood they planned to lift her. She pressed one hand to her chest and shook her head again. Mason touched her arm gently and gave a small reassuring nod. He tried to show safety in his expression. She blinked slowly. Her fear did not vanish, but she allowed him to move her. Mason lifted her carefully. She gasped in pain and gripped his armor with both hands. She was lighter than he expected. Her body trembled with exhaustion and fear. She looked at the dense shadows again. Tears formed at the corners of her eyes. The growl returned, this time closer. The trees to their left shifted. Something scraped against the bark. Something massive. Mason whispered into his cum. "Team, back formation. Keep your weapons high. Nothing attacks us without a fight." The soldiers moved together. Step by step, quiet, controlled. The forest felt tighter now. The glowing leaves above them dimmed as if even the plants feared what was coming. The alien woman buried her face against Mason's shoulder for a moment. Not from trust, but from pure terror. Her breath shook. She made a soft sound that felt like a farewell. Mason tightened his grip around her. "You are not dying tonight, not while I am here." Another growl rose through the trees. Louder, closer. The ground vibrated under it. Whatever hunted her had finally found their trail, and it was not going to stop. The forest felt alive with danger as the patrol moved back step by careful step. Every shadow looked deeper. Every sound felt sharper. The alien woman clung to Mason with her trembling hands. Her breathing stayed tight and fast. Her fear almost filled the air like a heavy fog. She kept looking over his shoulder toward the darkness behind them, as if something horrible was crawling closer with every heartbeat. Mason felt her shaking grow worse. He stopped for a moment and lowered himself to one knee while still holding her. The rest of the team formed a tight circle around them, their rifles pointed outward. Their eyes tracked every sound that drifted through the glowing trees. Mason spoke gently. "I need to treat your leg. If I do not help you now, you will not be able to move at all." She stared at him with wide eyes. Her face showed confusion, fear, and disbelief all at once. She did not understand his words, but she could sense the meaning in his voice. Still, her panic did not fade. Her people had been told many things about humans. She had been taught that humans were violent creatures. She had been warned that humans never touched aliens unless they meant to harm them. Yet, Mason kept showing a different truth. He reached for the medical kit. The woman tensed at the movement. Her hands dug into the moss. Her eyes followed his every move. Mason opened the kit and removed the small healing spray. The blue liquid inside shimmered softly. The woman stared at it as if she had never seen anything like it in her life. Mason touched her shoulder lightly. She jumped at the contact, not from pain, from shock. No human had ever touched her species with gentle hands. Not on her world, not during the war, not anywhere. Mason moved slowly to her injured leg. The wound looked worse now. The toxin had spread deeper. Her skin around the injury looked darker and colder. She squeezed her eyes shut and prepared herself for pain, not from the injury, but from the human soldier touching her again. Her breath caught when his hand rested gently on her leg. She expected roughness. She expected cruelty. Instead, she felt warmth, calm. Her eyes shot open. Her heart beat faster. She stared at Mason with disbelief. She whispered a word in her language. It sounded soft and confused. It sounded like she was asking a question. "Why are you helping me?" Mason answered with a steady voice. "Because you need help. Because you are hurt. Because no one deserves to die alone in a forest." She did not understand the words, yet the tone wrapped around her like light. He sprayed the healing mist over her wound. A soft glow spread across her skin. She gasped, but not from pain. The medicine brought a cooling relief that slowly numbed the burning toxin. Her body relaxed for the first time since they found her. For a moment she forgot about the creature hunting her. She forgot about the lies told to her people. She only saw the human soldier kneeling in the dirt to save her life. Her hand trembled as she lifted it toward his face. Not to push him away, not to fight, but to understand. She touched his cheek. Lightly, the warmth of his skin surprised her again. Humans were not cold like she had been told. They were not heartless. They were not monsters. Mason held her hand gently and lowered it back to her chest. She watched him with shining eyes. Something changed in her expression. A small piece of fear melted away. A sound ripped through the forest. A deep, heavy growl that shook the ground under them. The alien woman's eyes widened with fresh terror. She pushed against Mason's chest and spoke in a rush of desperate words. She pointed into the darkness with a shaking arm. The creature was close. Very close. Mason rose to his feet and lifted her into his arms again. She clung to him tightly. Her fear returned with full strength. The patrol team took defensive positions. Then the trees ahead moved in one slow wave. Something massive pushed through the forest. Something shaped like a nightmare. Mason felt the alien woman bury her face against his neck as she whispered one trembling word. Run. Asterisk. The forest shifted around them as if the trees themselves were trying to step out of the creature's path. The glowing blue leaves dimmed until the light faded into a weak shimmer. Even the wind stopped moving. The world felt frozen by fear. Mason tightened his grip on the alien woman while the rest of the patrol formed a defensive arc. Every soldier stood ready. Their rifles hummed with charged energy. Their eyes stared into the deep, black space between the trees. The alien woman trembled violently. She kept whispering the same word. Her voice cracked with fear. Mason could not understand the language, but the meaning was clear. The creature was close, and it was not something they could take lightly. Another growl rose from the shadows. Longer this time, heavy, full of hunger and rage. It shook the ground under their boots. Moss lifted in small waves as if the earth itself breathed with the creature. Diaz stepped beside Mason. His voice stayed low. Whatever that thing is, we cannot meet it in open combat. We need to fall back. Mason nodded. We move, but we do it slow. Any fast movement might trigger a chase. The alien woman shook her head wildly. She pushed at Mason's chest. Her hand moved in a frantic gesture. She pointed deeper into the forest, then pointed back at the team. Her eyes filled with fear and warning. She knew the hunting creature better than any of them. She knew it was not a normal predator. Mason lowered his head so she could see his face clearly. We stay together. You are safer with us than out here alone. She stared at him with disbelief. Her breath trembled. Her people never believed humans would protect anyone but themselves. Yet Mason held her like she was a part of his own squad. Another sound broke through the trees. Not a growl this time. A snapping noise, like claws digging into bark. Then another. Then another. Closer and closer. Slow. Purposeful. The creature was not rushing them. It was stalking them. The patrol tightened their formation. Their lights scanned the shadows. Every soldier felt the same cold pressure crawling up their spine. The trees. A head bent slightly. Something enormous brushed against them. The alien woman reached out and grabbed Mason's wrist. Her eyes locked onto his with an urgent message. She pointed at the ground behind them. Her gesture was sharp, strong. She wanted them to move away from the direction of the sound. She wanted them to escape before the creature saw them. Mason gave the signal. Team, fall back 3 steps at a time. Keep your lights low. Stay silent. The patrol moved backward in perfect coordination. Moss crushed softly under their boots. The alien woman clung to Mason with one arm while her other hand pointed again and again toward the darkest part of the forest. Her fear grew with every sound. Then the creature's outline appeared between 2 wide trees. A huge shape. Thick legs. A long body that moved with a slow wave as it stepped forward. Its eyes glowed with a faint red light that cut through the night like sparks. The alien woman choked on her breath. She slapped her hand over her mouth to stop herself from screaming. Mason felt her entire body jolt in his arms. Diaz whispered, "What in the world is that?" No one answered. No one could. The creature lifted its head. Its nose twitched as it scented the air. It was searching. It knew prey was nearby. It stepped out farther. Its body looked covered in dark plates like natural armor. Sharp ridges rose along its spine. Its breath came in low rumbling bursts that shook loose dirt from the trees. The team continued to fall back, but the creature suddenly stopped. Its head snapped toward them. Its eyes focused. It had found them. Mason felt the alien woman's nails dig into his armor. She whispered something soft. It sounded like a prayer. Or maybe a farewell. The creature let out a roar that shook the sky. Leaves rained down. The patrol steadied their weapons. The alien woman pushed at Mason again. She pointed to a narrow opening between the glowing trees. A hidden path. A possible escape. Mason made a fast decision. Team, toward that gap. Do not stop. Keep formation. The creature roared again and charged forward with thunder in its steps. The chase had begun. The creature charged through the forest with a roar that shook the trees from root to leaf. Every step thundered against the ground. Moss flew into the air. Branches snapped like bones. The glow of the trees flickered as the monster's weight crushed the earth. Mason held the alien woman tight against his chest as he ran with the patrol. Her arms locked around him with trembling strength. She tried to lift her head to look back, but fear forced her eyes shut. The creature was too close, too fast, too powerful. Diaz shouted. Move faster. It is gaining on us. The patrol sprinted toward the narrow opening between the glowing trees. Their armor clattered softly as they pushed their bodies to full speed. Their breaths came in sharp bursts. Their fear drove them forward like fire. The creature crashed through the trees again. Its eyes burned with wild red light. It opened its jaws wide, showing rows of long curved teeth. Its roar hit the team like a wave that almost stopped them in their tracks. Mason turned his head just enough to see the monster closing in. Its dark armored body reflected the faint blue light of the forest. Each movement looked heavy, yet fast. Too fast for something that size. The alien woman felt the vibration of the creature's breath behind them. She gasped with panic. She pressed her forehead against Mason's armor and whispered a trembling cry. She feared she would die in his arms. She feared the humans would die because of her. Mason tightened his grip around her. Hold on, we are not letting that thing take you. The hidden path came into view. A tight space between thick tree trunks. Wide enough for humans, too narrow for the creature. The team rushed into the opening with hope rising in their chests, but the creature did not stop. It slammed its massive body toward the gap. The trees shook violently. Bark exploded off the trunks. The ground cracked under the impact. The soldiers stumbled forward from the force. Some fell to their knees. The alien woman cried out as the shock wave hit them. Mason shielded her with his body and pushed himself back to his feet. The creature tried to force its way through the gap again. Its armored shoulders scraped the trees. Its teeth snapped at the air. Rage filled its glowing eyes. It roared again. The sound cut through the forest like a blade. Diaz took a defensive stance. We need to hold it off or it will break through. Mason handed the alien woman gently to another soldier who held her with care. Mason raised his rifle and charged toward the creature with fearless determination. The rest of the patrol followed him. They formed a firing line in front of the narrow gap. Mason's voice came strong. On my mark. Hit its joints. Hit the eyes. Hit anything that slows it down. The creature shoved against the gap again. Wood cracked. Leaves flew. The humans fired. Blue and gold beams streaked through the air. They struck the creature's face and shoulders. Sparks burst from its armored hide. Some shots burned into softer flesh under the plates. The creature jerked back with a violent snarl. The alien woman watched with wide, shocked eyes. Humans were fighting for her. Humans were risking their lives to save someone who was not one of their own. She had been told humans were cold. She had been told humans cared only for conquest. Yet here they stood between her and death. The creature lunged again. It forced its claw through the narrow gap. The claw scraped the ground. The impact sent dirt flying. Mason rolled to the side and fired into the creature's elbow joint. A sharp cry burst from the monster's throat. Diaz shouted, "It is weakening. Keep hitting the joints." The creature struck again. Its claw caught the side of a tree and ripped it apart. The falling trunk nearly crushed the patrol, but Mason pushed a soldier out of the way just in time. The team fired in a steady rhythm. Their courage grew with every shot. The creature let out a final roar. Its legs buckled. It swung its head wildly and then collapsed with earth-shaking force. Dust rose around its body. Its glowing eyes dimmed slowly until they faded into darkness. Silence returned to the forest. A fragile silence. A tired silence. But a victorious silence. The alien woman stared at the fallen monster. Then she looked at Mason. He stood breathing hard. Sweat shone on his face. Dirt clung to his armor. Yet he looked calm, strong, unbroken. She whispered in her language, her voice soft and full of wonder. It sounded like a word she had never used for humans before. Protector. The forest slowly settled after the fall of the huge creature. The glowing leaves brightened again, as if they sensed the danger was gone. The air felt lighter, yet every soldier stood still with their weapons raised. No one trusted the silence fully. Not after the terror that had chased them through the trees. Mason stepped toward the alien woman who sat weakly against a thick tree trunk. Her breaths came slow but steady. Her eyes stayed fixed on the collapsed creature. She watched its chest for any sign of movement. When she saw none, she finally let her shoulders drop. Relief washed over her like a soft wave. Mason knelt in front of her. His armor was scratched and dented. Dirt clung to his gloves. A small cut dripped blood down his cheek. Yet he did not care about his injuries. His attention stayed only on the frightened woman they had saved. He spoke softly. "You are safe now. We have you." The woman understood only a few words yet. She heard the calm strength in his voice. She lifted her hand and touched his face again. Her fingers brushed lightly across the cut. She looked confused by the warmth of human skin. She had been raised to believe humans were cold in both body and heart. But Mason felt warm, real, alive. Mason held her hand gently. She did not pull away. She looked into his eyes with a fragile kind of trust that was still new. Her voice came out soft and broken. She said a word that Mason could not understand, but he felt its meaning. "Thank you." Diaz approached and looked at the creature's huge body. He shook his head slowly. That thing was not normal. It was hunting her for a reason. The alien woman heard Diaz speak and her expression changed. Her fear returned, but not toward the humans. She looked deeper into the forest. She raised her hand and pointed repeatedly toward the north. Her gesture was clear. "Danger is not finished." Mason frowned. "More creatures," she nodded slowly. Then she tapped her chest. Her voice trembled as she spoke her language. She pointed to the dead monster, then pointed to the darkness beyond the trees. Her message was simple. They were after her. Not random prey. Mason exchanged looks with the team. Why would they hunt her specifically? No one had an answer. She pressed her hand to her wound, as if remembering her weakness. Pain crossed her face again. Her skin around the injury still looked a bit discolored, but the swelling had gone down thanks to the human medicine. She stared at the healing spray in Mason's kit. A soft glow of wonder rose in her eyes. She whispered something to herself. A thought she could not hide. Humans heal, not harm. Mason opened a small medical patch. He lifted it slowly so she could see it. She hesitated, then nodded with a tiny motion. She allowed him to place the patch over her injury. When the warmth of the healing patch spread across her leg, she gasped softly. The pain faded into a dull ache. Her body relaxed again. Mason smiled slightly. "You will walk again. Maybe not today, but soon." She understood the tone and the warmth behind his eyes. She touched her heart and then pointed at him. A gesture of gratitude that came from deep inside her culture. The team gathered around them. They were tired but alert. Diaz scanned the forest. "We cannot stay here. If she is right, more of those things might come." Mason nodded. "We take her to the outpost. She needs safety and medical care." When the alien woman heard the word safety, she looked up quickly. Her eyes filled with hope and fear mixed together. She touched Mason's arm and spoke again. She pointed to the sky, then to the distant mountains beyond the forest. Her voice cracked as she explained something in her foreign language. She knew. Something bigger was coming. Something dangerous, not just for her, but for humans too. Mason listened carefully. He did not understand the words, but the fear behind them was clear. The woman looked at him with pleading eyes. She needed him to trust her. She needed humans to be ready. Mason placed his hand over hers. His voice stayed steady. "We will protect you. Whatever is coming, you are not facing it alone." Her eyes widened. She had never heard those words from a human before. Her breath shook. She whispered a word filled with emotion. A word that seemed to rise from somewhere deep inside her spirit. Hope. The forest rustled again, though softer this time. The patrol looked around with tense focus. The alien woman leaned into Mason as if she finally believed he would not let anything happen to her. Trust had begun. Fragile but real. Yet the real danger waited beyond the forest, watching, planning, and it was only a matter of time before it arrived. The patrol team moved carefully through the forest with the alien woman supported between Mason and another soldier. The glowing trees around them drifted into softer blue light as if guiding them away from danger. The air still carried tension. Yet the creature's fall brought a brief moment of calm. Every soldier knew it would not last. The forest was too quiet again. Too watchful. The alien woman looked back at the direction they had escaped from. Her eyes tightened with fear. She knew the monster they killed was only the beginning. She gripped Mason's arm as if trying to warn him with every breath. Mason gave her a steady nod, telling her without words that he believed her. They walked until the forest opened into a small clearing. The leaves above formed a glowing dome that looked almost peaceful. The team stopped to rest. The woman leaned against a fallen tree trunk. She held her leg, but the pain was lighter now, thanks to the human medicine. She watched the soldiers talk quietly. She watched how they protected each other. She watched Mason, who kept checking the shadows. She had been raised on stories that described humans as destroyers. Yet what she saw today broke every lie she had ever been taught. Mason sat beside her. "You are safe for now. But you need to tell us what is chasing you. We cannot protect you if we do not understand the danger." She looked into his eyes. She could not speak his words yet. She knew he wanted the truth. She placed her hand on her chest, then pointed to the mountains, far beyond the forest. Her voice trembled as she began to speak in her language. Her words came slow and heavy. Even if the humans could not understand the language, they understood the emotion. She told them about her people who lived in hidden colonies in the mountains. She explained how a powerful enemy had appeared from deep underground. A species created. HFY, a species bred for hunting. A species that her people believed was released by mistake from an ancient vault. The creatures spread across the land like shadows given life. They hunted anything alive, but they hunted her people with special focus. She pointed at the fallen monster they had escaped. She pointed at her wounded leg. She spoke with tears rising in her eyes. Mason could feel the fear in her voice. She had lost many from her tribe. She had run for days trying to reach someone who could help. She believed humans might be the only force strong enough to fight the creatures. But her tribe had forbidden contact with humans. They believed humans were worse than monsters. Still she came. She wanted to warn them. She wanted to ask for help, even if it meant risking death. Mason understood enough. He looked at Diaz, then back at the woman. She came to us for help. That means something big is coming. Something her people could not stop. The woman watched him closely. Her eyes held a desperate hope. She placed her hand on his chest armor. Her voice shook as she spoke one word in broken human speech. A word she tried to form before, but could not. Help. The word hit Mason like a vow. He covered her hand with his. We will help you. I promise. You are not alone. The woman looked overwhelmed. She had never imagined a human soldier would speak to her like that. She whispered in her language again. This time the word carried deep meaning. A word she had never used for humans. Trust. But the moment of calm ended instantly. A sharp crack echoed from the forest. Not from a creature, from a weapon fired far in the distance. The ground vibrated slightly. Birds flew from the trees in a panicked rush. The alien woman grabbed Mason's arm with renewed fear. She pointed to the sky, then to the mountains again. Her message was urgent. It has begun. Mason signaled the patrol to prepare for movement. He looked at the woman. You need to come with us to the human outpost. We will keep you safe. We will get answers. She shook her head. She pointed toward the mountains with fierce desperation. Her people were still there, fighting. If the humans did not act soon, the creatures would spread beyond the mountains. They would reach the forest. They would reach human territory. No species would survive. Mason stood slowly. A decision formed in his eyes, a hard one, a dangerous one, a human one. We are going to the mountains. The woman gasped softly. Relief and fear mixed in her expression. She touched his arm with gratitude and warning both. The wind shifted. The forest darkened again. Far away in the mountains something roared. Not one creature, many, and they were coming.